More and more children are out of school, but parents don't want math learning to stop. They're turning to Mathnasium at home, real-time math instruction tailored to your child's exact educational needs. It's the same face-to-face live instruction used in our centers for over 15 years, now on a computer. Your child can keep their math skills sharp, catch up, or soar ahead, from home or anywhere with an internet connection. To learn if Mathnasium at home is right for your child, visit mathnasium.com/at-home. Mathnasium at home, changing lives through math.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mathnasium Schoolhouse. I am John, live from Mathnasium home office here in Los Angeles. I'm the AVP of Education and Training for the system. And really excited to have you all back. Please type in the comments who you are and where you're from. I like to know who's visiting with us today. If you're at a Mathnasium doing a watch party, type where you're from and what center you're at. So I'm really excited, as I always am, to be here with you. I want to talk about some mental math. And I put mental math at number one because I want to continue doing these with all of you. When you come to Mathnasium, if you're a Mathnasium student, you already know this. And I hope that if you're not, that you visit your local center and check us out. But, we're certainly we really emphasize mental math, So I want you to have a pencil and a paper with you today. Really when you think of mental math, certainly you think of doing things in your head, and that's what I want you to try first. But I'm going to also write some things down for you so that you can practice these techniques even after the session is over today. The important thing for you to keep in mind, and this is being a really great math student means that you can take a problem and look at it in multiple ways. So with some of these, I might show you a few different ways to think about it mentally and write out kind of what should be going on in your head as you're looking at a problem. The important thing to keep in mind is that you try as many possible ways as you can think of. There usually is a way that's kind of the best. But, if you try it in multiple ways, and you can think of a problem in multiple ways, then you get to the point where you can think of it and you decide, well, maybe that wasn't such a great way to think about it. And maybe this is a better way. And I don't want this to be frustrating if some of these problems are, they seem challenging. As always, do your best. If you're a parent, these are perfect things to practice with your child at home. The problems won't be too difficult to create. And certainly if you're taking notes along with the session, variations on these same problems and the techniques that we'll apply, you can practice them with your kids at home and do it fairly easily. We'll mainly focus on the four basic operations today. Probably we'll get into a couple fractions here and there. This isn't the super extreme mental math challenge. We'll build up as we go. But this is one should be fun and stretch your brain just a little bit. So do your best. And as we're going through these, you're always free to type your answer in the comments box. And then also maybe the way that you thought about the problem will be helpful too. With all that said, let's start. So the first one I want to take a look at is nine plus 8 plus 7. And remember, try to do them mentally first. And promise that you're not going to use a calculator. Okay, so if you said it's 24, you're correct. Now the question is, how did you do that mentally? What was your process? And the numbers are small enough that you could have just added them together. I mean, that 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 7 more is 24. It's not so bad. How many of you thought of this as being all three of these numbers being close to 10 first, then had 30, but that wasn't quite the same. And if I added 10 to itself 3 times, I made all three of those numbers bigger. I made this one bigger by 1, I made this one bigger by 2, and I made this one bigger by 3, which means I added 6 too much. 30 minus 6 is 24. And that's an excellent way to think about it. Sometimes when people are getting a little bit crazy, which is another good way to think of it, sometimes they borrow, which is weird. They borrow 1 from the 8 to make 10, and they borrow 3 from the 8 to make another 10. And I have a 4 left in the middle. Maybe some of you thought of it that way. So there's a few different ways to think about that problem just as a warm-up. And a lot of times when you're thinking about mental math, making tens or hundreds or multiples of 10, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier to think about, and then you just adjust it. And sometimes you set up a problem that's similar and you just change it. And what's really cool is if I were to ask you, maybe what's 19 plus 18 plus 17, which is something you can practice at home, then the process is very similar. I would be making 20s instead of 10s. And when you're thinking about these problems and you're kind of playing around after the session, make up your own problems and see if the techniques we talk about, if they work. Even something like 190, 180, and 170, which seems like, wow, I don't know how to add that in my head mentally. But if I made 200s, it's not so bad. Okay? Let's take a look at another one that's similar. And if you come to Mathnasium, you may have seen a problem like this before. So maybe your awesome center director, or maybe you saw it in a workout book, this problem. So what's 99 plus 99 plus 99? And you can type your answer in the comments box. So it's 297. And even though we're not dealing with single digit numbers like in the previous example, we can still do something that's kind of the same. We can make hundreds instead of tens. So if you thought of it as being 300 minus 3, that's an awesome way to think about it. Remember, we talked about maybe you can even borrow from one of these 99s and make 200s. And since I took 2 away from that 99, I have a 97 there. And something like this isn't too bad either. There's always multiple ways to think about these problems, and that's the important thing is as you keep practicing math, think about all the ways that you could start a problem and all the steps. And the more ways you can think about these problems, the better off you're going to be. Okay. Let's do one more addition problem. So what's 103 plus 98 plus 104? If you said 305, great job. Now the question is, if you did it mentally, how did you think about that problem? And even in this problem is similar to the ones we've done, where all three numbers are close to 100. It's just in a different way. Some of them are bigger now, but it doesn't really change how you want. If you want to think about it that way, it doesn't really change anything. You have 300s. But if I add 300s together, I didn't add enough because two of those numbers were bigger. So I need to add 7 more, but then I need to take 2 away because I added too much here. And I get 305. Okay, let's take a look at a little bit of subtraction now. So how about 100 minus 76? So when we think about subtraction, actually there's two interesting ways to think about subtraction. How far apart are the numbers or how much is left? And I want to talk about these problems both ways. But let's see what you get first. So 100 minus 76 is 24. Now the question is, if you did it all mentally, how did you think about that problem? One excellent way to think about this problem is to actually start at 76 and work your way up to 100. So the question is, how far is it from 76 to 80 and then from 80 to 100? It's 4 from 76 to 80 and 20 more to 100. 4 plus 20 is 24. But a lot of times when you're dealing with mental math, it's important when you're doing, let's say, subtraction, like this. Too high. When you're doing subtraction, you usually work from right to left. You deal with the ones first and the tens and the hundreds. A lot of times with mental math, it's interesting. It's almost better to work from left to right. And as you practice this, and a lot of the techniques that people do computation quickly, they actually go left to right. You just have to practice enough to know when it works. So you can also think of this as being 100 minus 70 minus 6. 100 minus 70 is 30. That's not tricky. And 30 minus 6 is 24. And either way works great. Certainly, you just find the one that seems to be the easiest and works the best for you. Let's take a look at another. So what about, let's say, 200 minus 33? So how would you do that? And yes, on the previous one, somebody mentioned that you could subtract 80 and add 4, and that's exactly right. That's an awesome way to do it too. So 200 minus 33 is 167, so hopefully you got that. Now, we talked about if you start here and work your way up to 200, it's not a bad way to do it. The numbers get a little bit bigger. So you can work your start at 33 and go up to 40. And then you have a choice. You can go up to 100 and then 200 or straight to 200 either way. Go straight to 200. So it's 7 up from 33 to 40, and it's 160 up to 200 from there, and I get 167. So that's one way. But those numbers are pretty far apart. So sometimes it's better to think of it as 200 minus 30 minus 3. So 200 minus 30 is 170, minus 3 is 167, and either way, you get there. It's not so bad. And it's good for you to practice. So if you're sitting at home and you want to practice your math, then practice, what's 300 minus 47? Just make up numbers. And think about what we did together and do it both ways and try to do it in your head. Your brain is the most powerful calculator you have, and you'll always be a lot smarter than you know, of course. So just keep practicing and you'll get it. Let's take a look at a couple multiplication problems. So here's an interesting one to think about. And sometimes you think, well, multiplication is kind of hard, and multiplication facts you have to have them memorized, and sometimes they're tricky. And then you think, well, how am I going to multiply 5 numbers together? But let's see what you do here. So what do you think? So hopefully you got 120. Sorry. My face is covering up the answer, but it's 120. So you could start and work from left to right, but I mentioned sometimes that's a really great way to think about it. But sometimes even better is when you try to find tens or multiples of 10 or hundreds. Those things are a lot friendlier to deal with multiplication. So how many of you thought about it that you first did the 5 times 2, which gives you 10, and then hopefully you did 4 times 3, which is 12, and 10 times 12 is 120. And you might be saying, well, what about the 1? Well, remember that anything times 1 is itself, so I'm really just worried about the 5, 4, 3, and 2. Maybe you did 5 times 2 is 10, times 4 is 40, times 3 is 120, which isn't too bad. It's just one extra step. There's another name for this. It's called 5 factorial. Yes, that is an exclamation point. So if you want to check out something later and look it up, there's something fun for you to research later and take a look at. Let's do another multiplication problem. Let's make the numbers a little bit bigger. So 5 times 6 times 4 times 2 times 5. So let's see what you get there. And if you start at the left and work your way to the right, those numbers get pretty big pretty fast. So let's see if we can find a way to maybe pair some of those together to make it easier. So hopefully you got 1,200, which is awesome if you did. And then the question is, when you looked at that, how did you think about that problem? And there's a ton of ways to think about this one. So here's a 10 here, and here's a multiple of 10 here. And then I just have to worry about that 4. 30 times 10 is 300. 300 times 4 is 1,200. That's one way. Some of you may have thought, you kind of saw that there's a 5, 5, and 4. 5 times 5 is 25, times 4 is 100, times 6 is 600, times 2 is 1,200. Another great way to think about it. If you did it from left to right, 5 times 6 is 30, times 4 is 120, times 2 is 240, times 5 is 1,200, and that's, that's not so bad, but there are easier ways, right? But like I said, think about these and put these numbers together. That's what I used to do when I was growing up. You might think it's weird that I used to sit around and do things like this, but I did. And it's because I just wanted to see how numbers fit together, and I tried something to see if it worked. And that's what I want you guys to do. Okay, let's do a couple division problems, and then we'll close it out for the day, and we'll stop with division, okay? So let's start with one that's not so bad. What's 100 divided by 20? And remember, with division, you're trying to find how many 20s are inside of 100 for this particular problem. Now with division, and we'll talk about a couple that I'm going to adjust to make it a simpler problem, that I can actually change these problems as long as I do it proportionally. So whatever I do to the dividend, if I do it to the divisor, I actually will get the same answer, which is kind of cool. So 100 divided by 20 is 5. That's not so bad. But if you thought of it as being the same as 10 divided by 2, yeah, it kind of is. Okay. The result of 100 divided by 20 and 10 divided by 2 are the same. And that's, as long as I cross out 1 0 for every 0 in the dividend and the divisor, then it's the same. Okay. So how about 280 divided by 40? So how many 40s are inside of 280? And hopefully you got 7. What about 3,500 divided by 70? So now we're making the numbers bigger. We're increasing the scale. But the idea is still the same. Remember, as long as you do it proportionally, things like this are okay. If I reduce both of those by a factor of 10, then what that means is the result of 3,500 divided by 70 is the same as the result of 350 divided by 7. And that helps me. So hopefully you got that the answer was 50. Okay, not too bad. Now, what about 360 divided by 45, which is something that may be not quite the same as what we've just done, but I want you to see if you can think of a friendly way to rewrite this. Maybe it's something that's a little bit easier to figure out. And just be careful. It's important for you to be able to do this, but you have enough up here to be able to do this without it. Hopefully you got 8, which means there are 8 45s inside of 360, and that's a little bit weird. Okay. So how did you think about this one if you got 8, if you did it mentally? So remember that if I do things proportionally, then I can set up something that will give me the same result as my original problem. If I double both of these, that's actually okay. And I'll bet that 720 and 90 is a little bit easier to see the result than 360 divided by 45. You could have thought of it as there are 2 45s and 90 and 4 90s and 360, and I get 8 that way too. Just some ways for you to think about it, okay? We'll do one more fractional example. So 1.5 plus 2.5 plus 3.5. And remember, we're trying to do it all in our head. So hopefully you got 7.5. Then the question is, how did you think about this? Well, hopefully 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, and then you have to deal with the halves. I have 2 halves here. A half and a half is 1, so now I have 7. And then I have this leftover half here, which just makes 7.5. Okay. So now we're just we're combining the whole numbers, then we're making ones with the fractional pieces that we have, and then we have something left over. So it's not so bad. Okay. Just little things that you can, and like I said, we'll do more of these mental math sessions, and we'll keep working together, and we'll make these harder. And a lot of these techniques, we'll continue to put them together, and then all of a sudden you'll be doing all kinds of super crazy problems, and we'll get into percents and all kinds of stuff, which will be really cool. So with that, I think we'll close it out for today in the session on mental math. I appreciate all the awesome answers and the hard work. Remember, Mathnasium Schoolhouse, we're here every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. I will be back on Friday to talk about something called the Fibonacci sequence, which will be really fun. So I hope you visit me again. And with that, have a great day. Thanks.
It's afternoons that seem to be the most hectic for us, so it was much more convenient when we found Mathnasium at home.
All right, so how do we do half of 5? I think one of the best things about at home is that it really feels like you're almost at home with the student in their house teaching them.
I'm in my comfort zone.
You can just ask for help and the instructor will come right to you.
With Mathnasium at home, I know that they're getting the help that they need.
Awesome, great job.
Mathnasium, changing lives through math.